Get ready to be amazed. Get ready to be transformed. Get ready to believe it is possible. You're entering the growth zone on the Guts and Glory Show with your host, Louise Scott.
Hey guys, my name is Luis, and this is the Guts and Glory Show. It's a show dedicated to helping you learn just a little more so that you can be bigger and better than you were before. And I'm really excited about our guest today. Our guest is a longtime friend and someone who's been in the industry for a long time in the world of marketing, this elusive world of marketing where everyone seems to be so confused about what to do to get business. And we're going to unpack it all today and talk about how you can get more business, make more money, work less, and live the life that you want. And so our guest today is Josh Konigsberg, owner of Law Firm Marketing Pros and the author of Law Firm Digital Marketing Made Easy. So we're really excited to have Josh on the show. Josh, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show.
Luis, thanks for the wonderful introduction and thanks for the invitation to the show. We're really looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you and I have worked together a lot, and I know your work. I know the work that you do around the country with different law firms. And yeah, we can get into law firms and all that, but really the principles of marketing are not specific to an industry, right? It's marketing is marketing is marketing. And you really understand that. And I think that's what matters most to the audience when it comes to growing their business, whether it's a law firm or a tax accounting business or video production business, or selling vitamins, whatever it is, it's all the same. It's how do you get in front of these eyes? How do you actually create this plan that gets a person to actually call you and spend money with you? And so you've become the expert in doing that. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into marketing and how you actually became a specialist in the space.
We have to go all the way back to my college years. way back. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm old. So my degree is in communications, and I've always kind of been a natural salesperson. Whenever I going all the way back, geez, I remember the fundraisers when I was playing travel ice hockey as a kid, selling donuts to all my neighbors, right? So the progression into marketing came I was almost forced into it as an entrepreneur when I started my first business right out of college. And while I was working in college, I was working at a health club. There was actually a tennis and racket club, and they had a full-blown health facility. And it's funny, there was a large branch of State Farm, I believe it was, that opened up not too far from the facility. And I said to the owner, I said, there's probably a lot of people down there at that State Farm place that would join the gym if they knew. Maybe if we put together a program and gave them an offer, a special for like quantity discount. He said, that's a great idea. If you go make it happen, I'll give you 10%. When I walked in, I talked to the director of HR, introduced myself, and they said, that sounds like a great plan. And the next thing you know, 2 weeks later, I walked out with a check for $5,000. Now, this is in the 1980s, right?
Wow.
I gave it to my boss. He turned around and gave me a check for $500. And I said, I'm sitting on the wrong side of the table. Don't get me wrong. Just a college kid picked up an extra 500. It was great. But the story for me was, hey, I need to figure out how to be my own boss and own my own business. So shortly after I graduated college, I started my own business. And as an entrepreneur, you are forced to learn how to market. So even though the degree is in communications, it wasn't specifically marketing. So I learned the tricks and trades of marketing, and I've immersed myself in reading books, watching video, and being a student of the Dan Kennedys and the Russell Brunsons of the world.
What's interesting is you said as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to market. Now, that is very true. And unfortunately, so many people don't learn how to market and they go out of business. And so it's not always the case that people actually learn that skill set. I love the story about the donuts because I feel like every entrepreneur has that. When I was a kid, this is what I did that clearly identified me as an entrepreneur. For me, it was ironing clothes, or I used to call it dry cleaning my parents' clothes. Like that's what I did, $20 a week. And it wasn't time driven. It was get the job done, and you get paid. And I think that that's a big part of an entrepreneur's makeup, is that they don't want to be bound to earning only because of time. They like to make money regardless of the amount of time that they have. And so you spend all this time since you're 21 in marketing, and you eventually got into like a niche of law firm marketing. But I'm curious to hear, in today's market environment, what works? Give me that high level, what works right now.
So again, as I mentioned, I've immersed myself in books and videos and training and whatnot. So Chet Holmes, who wrote The Ultimate Selling Machine, which is a phenomenal book, and I recommend it, highly recommend it. Unfortunately, he recently passed, but he created something called the buyer's pyramid. So I want you to think of a pyramid, and the top 3% of the people in the pyramid are in the buying cycle right now. So I'll just use a couple analogies in law, right? And by the way, we're all as consumers, every moment, every waking moment of every day, we're all at some stage in the buying cycle for something. So, so we're all competing for that, right? So the buying cycle for family law is different for criminal defense and different for personal injury and criminal defense and estate planning. So if my son gets a DUI and I get a call at 2 a.m. from county lockup, you don't happen to know a lot of attorneys like I do. What's the first thing you do? I got to get my son out of lockup, right? So what's the buying cycle? 5 minutes, right? They're going to Google. They're maybe seeing who's got the best reputation. If you're closed now on Google, you're not getting that phone call at 2 a.m. I'm calling somebody who can go help get my son. What do you need on the credit card, right? Here's the Amex number. Go ahead and get him out of jail. So the top 3% are in the buying cycle now. I'll go to another story of going through a divorce. So I've been divorced. It took 18 months. So that buying cycle, you reach the tipping point unless there's some type of a triggering event, right? You walk in a spouse or something like that. It's a protracted decision-making process, and there's ways to attack that. But those people are not in the top 3%. So the way he breaks out the pyramid, the next section is 7%, and those 7% are in consideration for it. So I'm thinking about divorce. I'm tired of fighting. I'm going to start my journey to seek to look for what you have. I've been in a car accident. Do I need an attorney? Do I not? Do I need to go to the urgent care center? I know I got to get my car fixed at the body shop, but am I really that hurt until the next morning? You can't get out of bed, right? We all know those stories. So those 7% move up into the 3%. And I like to use divorce because the numbers are staggering. We know 50% of all people who are married are considering divorce, because we know divorce rate is 50% or higher in some cases. So we just talked about the top 10% of the people who you can get. Where are those people, Luis? They're on Google. They've got 94% of market share. So that's an absolute direct response. We can put you in front of them for what they're searching for, and they're pretty far down the buying cycle.
Absolutely. So right now, I think where you're alluding to is, if you are having trouble getting business and you really want to get business right now, you need to be on Google. Is that the point?
100% you need to be on Google. It's funny. Yesterday I spoke to a smaller PI firm in Miami. They're only 3 years in, and what have you guys been doing? Well, we have reels on social media. That's what they're doing. That's all they're doing. So I can go down that path of why that doesn't work at their stage. They need clients now. Do you need clients in the future? 100%. And your strategy should include that, provided you have the budget. If you don't have the budget, you need to get clients now so you can allocate a reserve for future investment to drive traffic in the future. So I just want to get back. Go ahead.
Well, I've met a lot of people who believe in that concept, but then they say it's too expensive. So what would you say to somebody who says, look, Josh, I believe you. I know, but man, it's crazy expensive. How do you reconcile that issue?
So the cost is going to be based upon a budget. A budget is going to be based upon a percent of projected revenue. So what's expensive? What's your customer acquisition cost? What are you comfortable? What should you be paying to acquire a customer? And we'll use your a paid ad campaign budget, and then over time, as we increase the organic reach and omnipresence, we're going to have a blended average, which drives that number down. And it's going to vary from type of law to type of law. And as you're aware, different areas of the country are more expensive than others, right?
And even across industry types too, it depends. Like some industries, you may be able to have immediate access, right? If you were to start a plumbing business, or one of these businesses that are really in demand right now, right? HVAC, we're going into summer, and you start an HVAC company and you start putting Google ads, it's very likely you're going to get hits really quickly, because there's a lot of people at the top of the pyramid who are ready to buy right now. And I think that also influences, the success rate. But outside of the cost, right? So you're talking about how the cost of acquisition depends on the practice area, the industry and the location and so forth. But what about timing? Because when I coach and consult clients, I'm always telling them, give it time. Like, what is the timing for this, right? You in your book, Law Firm Made Easy, digital marketing made easy. What is the timing? Simplify this for me. How long should I wait?
Great question. So we use something, a 4-phase process called crawl, walk, run, fly. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could say that it was 3 months of crawling, 3 months of walking, 3 months of running to get to the fly stage. There are variables that impact that competitiveness of the market, what your existing digital footprint looks like. So in the crawl phase, what we want to do is we want to start to get our clients wins as soon as possible. And so the first thing we need to do is implement some type of pay-per-click strategy, because that's going to be the light switch that gets them found and seen and converted. Now, one of the things that we run into all the time is, and you can do any Google search, especially in PI, you're going to see almost every single one of those ads look the same. It's no different than the billboards that you see up and down the highway. They almost all look the same, right? So you need to differentiate yourself with the content of those ads, of what people see. Okay. Then part of it has to do, if we have time today, we can talk a little bit about story, because it's not about you, the attorney, it's about them. Mm-hmm. So again, not to go down the rabbit hole, but in our story, and Luis, you and I are in the same position, we are the guide. The hero of the story is the attorney. Mm-hmm. In the attorney's world, the hero is client, and they're the guide. And so many get that confused. So many attorneys get that, they think they're the hero, right? Mm-hmm. And I can see that as I drive up and down the highway, as I have the TV on and I see the ads, and the attorneys are standing there like this. You're the guide, you're not the hero.
Well, that's driven by ego, right? That's
100%.
Lawyers have plenty of ego to go around, so they want to be the hero that's rescuing the victim in the scenario. I do want to get into story brand, but I want to ask you, what would you say the top 3 things are that self-sabotage these digital strategies? Because now we've talked about understanding the cost of acquisition, and timing depends on where your current digital footprint is. But like, people are self-sabotaging every single day. What are they doing?
So depending on their stage of development and their mindset, right? Obviously, the self-sabotage of somebody doing less than $1 million might be different than somebody who's at 3 million trying to get to 6 million, or 5 million trying to get to 10 million, right? Mm-hmm. So budget concerns and their concerns about cost is one. And they need to understand what the proper percent of revenue that should be invested in marketing is. And I know you do a great job explaining that and helping them understand that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is not giving it enough time. Mm-hmm. And expecting instantaneous results. And it simply doesn't work that way. There's very few instances throughout the advertising history that you can think of, hey, there's that silver bullet that worked. And to get to that silver bullet that worked, we don't know how many different ad campaigns failed for them to get there. And the most iconic one I can think of is the Wendy's ad campaign, which really put them on the map of where's the beef.
Right.
That's such an iconic campaign. But how many millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars did they spend to reach that catapult point where they hit that meteoric rise to be competitive with McDonald's and Burger King, right?
Yeah, millions.
So right, exactly. So there's no silver bullet. And the other thing that I see is there's not a consistent, cohesive story that they're telling across all channels. And that story should permeate all channels.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I love what you're saying about the there's no, it's not fast, it's not quick. And it makes me think of like Coke. If you ever go to the Coke factory here in Atlanta, and you see the story of Coca-Cola, like there were people who missed on Coca-Cola. There were people who, I mean, the original founders of the formula sold it for like pennies to the guy who ended up like blowing up the business. And so there are people in the early stages of your business that are going to miss on you. They're not going to believe in you. But if you stay in the game long enough, you will find the people who believe in you. Let's go to story, because I love this segue into this story. I think a lot of it has to do with the story you tell too, right? And we were talking before the show about this concept of story brand. Tell us a little bit more about this, because I know you're really deep into this.
Yeah, so this is Donald Miller has written several books on it, and it really simplifies the messaging so that the consumer, your potential client, can understand really who you are and what you can do for them. Because again, it's all about them, not you. So every great story ever told, every great novel ever written, going all the way back to Shakespeare and Hamlet, every great movie that we've seen, there's the same basic story. And that is, there is a hero who meets a guide that develops a plan to overcome the villain, and that villain does not have to be an individual. And that plan helps them avoid failure and pain and leads them to success and happiness. That's the same theme of every story ever told. Now, I
love that story.
Right?
They love that story, right?
Right. So again, Luis, you and I are the guide. The attorneys are the hero. Who's the villain to them? Now, I can rattle off a half a dozen digital marketing agencies who don't get it right, who I think the villains are. But the villain is their competition and the difficulties of being found and seen and chosen as a category of one in their marketplace. That to me is the villain. For you, the villain is them not really truly understanding how to operate a business to make it profitable, to grow and become an 8-figure firm, right?
Yeah.
So we develop a plan, right, to help them avoid failure and achieve success. And that's ultimately what it means. But in order to do that, you have to simplify your messaging. So I'm going to read you what's known as a one-liner. A one-liner can be one sentence, two sentences, three sentences. And we see these every day as consumers, but we don't necessarily understand what's happening in terms of the motivation. So for me so if I were to meet you, Luis, at a cocktail reception or a networking event, and hey, what do you do, Josh? Well, we partner with ambitious attorneys seeking more cases by getting their digital marketing right, so they can reclaim valuable time and focus on what matters most in their practice and personal life. Mm-hmm. Now, does that tell you what we do for an attorney? Does that resonate?
I mean, just to answer this question generally, it would resonate with some people. It would not resonate with some people, right? It just depends on if it's your ideal client, that would probably resonate for sure. Yeah.
If you're not an ambitious attorney, you're not my client.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, that's exactly.
That's right. That's right. So we help our attorney clients develop this storyline that can be implemented and permeated into all the different channels. And if we're working with an outside agency, like they have a traditional marketing agent, we'll work with them. They may already have it, right? Like we know that, for example, we have a shared client, Clark Speaks, Who Speaks for You. That's a wonderful campaign. And it's obviously worked tremendously well for him.
My question about, telling the story, because I think that this is one of the most difficult parts of it when you don't understand the intricacies of marketing, is how do you tell that story on a pay-per-click campaign? How do you tell that story through lead generation? How do you tell that story through referrals? How do you tell that story through channels where you don't have really the ability to manage the content itself? I know there's a way to do it. I'm curious how you guys do that.
Think of movies and plots and subplots. Mm-hmm. And then taking small bits and pieces of a movie and trying to piece them together over time. So website's easy, right? We can modify websites so we can get that. Social media becomes much more difficult because we've only got them for microseconds, right? Mm-hmm. So, but you have to, by bits and pieces, put it together for them, and hopefully they see it over and over time and connect all the dots. And you were tremendously successful with this in your last law firm.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely we went out and hired a company who actually created a brand story for us. And I don't know, is this something that Law for Marketing Pros actually does for clients?
Well, we're actually in the process of implementing something called My Law Video,
Okay.
which is where we're going to be doing this as part of it. We're also going to be doing it as part of our branding process, our branding onboarding, so that for the parts that we do, like pay-per-click and whatever, and by the way, for the pay-per-click ads, it's going to resonate in any ads to get them to the landing pages, which then begin to tell the story with some video that tells the story even more.
Right.
And maybe, right. So all obviously with the calls to action. And again, it's about saving them from failure, leading them to success. And what does the avatar look like for this law firm versus that law firm, right?
Yes.
The answer to your question is yes. And as we implement the My Law Video program over the next couple months, it's almost ready now. So yeah, we'll be offering that up.
Super valuable. I mean, I know when we paid for the creation of our brand story, I think it was like probably $10,000 to $15,000, and it sounds like you're including it in your process. So that's a big value add for anybody out there who's looking to to work with someone who develops their story brand. Tell me what else is working right now, because the industry is always changing, market's always changing. We know digital works, we know storytelling works. What else do you see out in the marketplace? Maybe something that is untapped and you're seeing is working really well.
Things. First and foremost, the acceleration to reels has been mind-boggling, right? So you have to have some type of video presence in order to be competitive, even if you don't get it right. And I'm not suggesting you should do it wrong, but there's a lot of people out there doing it wrong. But at least there's some type of presence, right? So it's also the proper implementation of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so that we're hitting the right audience to get the conversion. And here's one of the other things I see people do wrong and that they need to get right. So you implement and you and I've had these conversations, a Facebook, and let's call it meta ad campaign. So the difference, so for the audience listening, the difference between organic posts and
paid
meta ads is dramatically different. Organic posts, the people who follow you are going to see that post, and only a very small percentage, they already know who you are. That's not who we're worried about. So the ads are placed in front of a audience based upon an avatar that together we create, so that we can hit a target of people who might be interested in. And I'm going to go back to the Chet Holmes buyer pyramid, because we didn't talk about the remaining 90%. The bottom, and that ties into this. And this is where we get clients down the line, meaning in the future. So the bottom 30% of that pyramid, again, go back to family law, they're never getting divorced no matter what, right? Because of whatever their value structure, it doesn't matter, they're never getting. That leaves 60% of the market that need to know who you are. And how do you get them to know who you are? Is by providing some piece of valuable information that they might be interested in. And in order to do that, we've got to get them to raise their hand and say, yes, I want that information. And that information is known as a lead magnet. That can be a guide, a kit, a checklist, a book, a webinar. And so those lead magnets get them to raise their hand, and the value of the lead magnet has to be equal to or greater than the exchange of the information they're giving you, which is their name, email address, and phone number. Luis, is your name, email address, and phone number valuable to you?
Everybody has a different price for it, right?
Right, that's right. So that exchange has to happen. But once they've raised their hand and they've downloaded some content, and again, I'm going to go back to family law and the divorce kits that we've created. So we have a divorce kit for men and a divorce kit for women. Just because I downloaded a divorce kit today, does that mean I'm ready to come in tomorrow for a consult?
Not necessarily, no.
Right, or next week or next month, in my case, 18 months later. So if I'm continually being touched over that period of time, that law firm remains top of mind. They've built authority, so I've trust them. So I know them. Now I like them because they provided me with valuable information and I learned. And right? No, like, and now I trust them. So now I call them for the console. And that takes time. Again, not a switch. So when we build a database of people who have raised their hands because they have some level of interest in an estate plan, in a divorce, right? Doesn't work so well for criminal defense because the buying cycle is so short. So, but we are successfully getting conversions and building databases for personal injury. Ultimately, when we build enough people in the database who know you, who've raised their hand, we now offer up a evergreen webinar that they can come to. So let's just say we got, in 6 months, 500 people raise their hand. We've got their emails. They're invited to a webinar. It's an evergreen webinar that we've got set up. 50 of the 550 register, 25 show up, 15 stay to the end, 10 come in for appointments, 5 convert. We can run that every month forever.
And it's there's some level of predictability in it because you already know who your client avatar is. The people are raising their hands. They're already self-selecting. It makes it really easy. But you just said something that kind of blew my mind. I've never thought about this. And then I was able to think of a moment where this has been true. You said the giveaway, the lead magnet, has to be greater in value than the value of the person's name, phone number, and email. And it literally clicked in my head how succinct that explanation is as it relates to lead magnets. Because I have seen lead magnets where the lead magnet will say, learn how to generate an extra $30,000 in your business, or learn how to be a 6-figure business. And I have no interest in that. I'm not going to give you my name, my email for a lead magnet that is worth less than what I think I am worth. That like just blew my mind. I had never thought about that before.
Better title could be, this one mistake is costing you $30,000 a month.
Now I'm interested. Now I'm interested, right? Because like I don't want to lose $30,000. I'm willing to give you my email to not lose $30,000. I don't know if I'm willing to give you my email just to learn how to make $30,000 when I have a multi-7-figure, multi-8-figure business, right? Like it's a different.
I'll follow that line with a tagline. Mm-hmm. This one secret that I've used too.
Right.
Now you're really, really interested because I'm losing $30,000 a month, and there's one secret I need to learn to stop the bleeding.
To stop the bleeding. Yeah, that was powerful. That was really good. So, well, this has been good stuff. I love that marketing's alive and well. I love marketing. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. I do believe Google is still king. I do believe that paid ads on social media is still important, and I think it can drive a lot of traffic. We're seeing a lot of success all across the digital space, and I think any industry can see similar success if they're willing to give it the time, the energy, and spend the money in doing that. If somebody wants to work with you and they want more information about Law Firm Marketing Pros, maybe get access to your book, where can they find you?
Available on Amazon. And also you can get a free download on our website, which is www.lawfirmmarketingpros.com. If you'd like to schedule a call with me when you get to the website, what do we want them to do when they get to the website? Everybody wants the same thing. They want you to call, so you can schedule a call directly on my calendar at the website.
And one thing that I know is that the value you're going to provide them for their name and number and email is going to be greater than their name and number and email. So now I've learned that. I know that that's what you have to deliver. And that makes perfect sense. So guys, you heard it here first. Story brand, Google's still king. Reels are big time. Make sure you spend money on paid ads, webinars, funnels. Everything's working right now as long as you have the patience to do it. And stay committed to the process, because marketing is a long-term game. Your business is a marathon, not a sprint. So never forget that. And we just appreciate you, Josh, for being on the show. And you've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show. For more and to learn more about Luis, hit the website at luisscottjr.com. For consulting opportunities, hit 8figurefirm.com. That's the number 8figurefirm.com. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on the Guts and Glory Show.